I started out from Memphis, boys, $2 and a dime. When I landed in old Hazard, boys, I did not have a shine. God knows I've been all around the world.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Been All Around This World, a podcast presented by the Association for Cultural Equity that explores the life's work of folklorist Alan Lomax. In this transmission of the show, we'll be dedicating ourselves, none too soon, to protest songs. Songs of complaint and resistance and solidarity, and people power. But first a word to put those songs in context, into the 7 decades of folklore documentation, preservation, and especially promotion that Lomax devoted himself to. They were a long, exhausting, extraordinarily fruitful experiment in activism on behalf of what he called cultural equity, a term that it took him 40-some-odd years to coin, but a theory and a practice that animated all of his work. Here's him explaining it to Charles Kuralt in an interview for CBS Sunday Morning in 1991. This section didn't make the broadcast.
My view of it is that not very long ago, there were hundreds of little separate communication worlds. I call them little bubbles of song and delight and ways of life and cookery and everything that existed everywhere. Literally hundreds of thousands of these little generators of the original. And suddenly all those delicate structures are being smashed and scattered and suppressed by an overpowerful, overreaching communication system. And that's true in our country, it's true in Europe, and it's true, of course, even more tragically in the rest of the world. And I think the most important thing that anybody can do is to try to restore the balance. I call this cultural equity. The slogan is every culture with its equal time on the air and in the classroom. Cultural equity should join all the other important principles of human dignity, freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom to work and live and enjoy yourself, and freedom for your culture to express itself. Because that's all we've got, you know. We're just culture.
Alan Lomax's leftist politics were never in doubt, much to the bemusement of his patrician Southern father, John Lomax, and the interest of the FBI, who kept a dossier open on Lomax for 40 years, from 1940 to 1980. It was finally closed when it was determined that, and I quote, "Neighborhood investigation shows him to be a very peculiar individual in that he is only interested in folklore music, being very temperamental and ornery. He has no sense of money values, handling his own and government property in a neglectful manner, and paying practically no attention to his personal appearance." End quote. And although Lomax was never officially blacklisted like his colleagues Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger, he wisely escaped the heat of the McCarthy era by decamping to the United Kingdom and Europe for nearly all of the 1950s. The connection between protest and folk song was made plain to Lomax almost immediately into his experience song collecting. It was the summer of 1933 when John A. Lomax and 18-year-old Alan visited the Smither Farm north of Huntsville, Texas. John explained to the plantation manager that they were looking for, quote, made-up songs from the black tenant farmers. The manager took it upon himself to compel all the tenants and their families to gather in the schoolhouse that evening. The scene was uncomfortable. A few spirituals were sung before an old gentleman called Blue volunteered a song he claimed to have composed that afternoon in the field, addressing the iniquities of the sharecropping system. After a few lines, he began to address the president, presumably expecting that his message would be brought back to Washington through the white folks recording him from the Library of Congress. "Now, Mr. President," he said, "you don't know how bad they're treating us folks down here. I'm singing to you and I'm talking to you, so I hope you will come down here and do something for us poor folks in Texas." Alan Lomax recalled this experience in 1979, writing that when the record was over, we played it back and there was immense joy in this group because they felt they had communicated their problem to the big world. They wanted those people at the other end of the line to hear what life was like for them. That's why they were singing for us. They wanted to get into the big network. That experience totally changed my life. My job was to try and get as much of these views, these feelings, this unheard majority onto the center of the stage." End quote. That recording of Blue tragically doesn't survive, but we'll be devoting this episode to other songs of complaint and protest, composed, sung, and collected in a similar spirit. We'll start with one of the plainest speaking examples you're likely to find anywhere, by East Kentucky's Sarah Ogan Gunning. "I Hate the Capitalist System" was a song she became known for through her own performances and those of singer and activist Barbara Dane, who released a Folkways LP with that name. This is the first recording of the song, made by Lomax and Mary Elizabeth Barnacle, in November 1937 in New York City, where Gunning had relocated along with her brother Jim Garland and their half-sister Aunt Molly Jackson after their activist activities among striking coal miners made remaining in their native southeast Kentucky too dangerous. Gunning, Garland, and Jackson were all recorded extensively by Lomax, their repertoires combining strictly traditional songs and ballads with new topical arrangements based on folk melodies. All of the Lomax recordings of these three can be accessed through the Lomax Kentucky recording site, lomaxky.omeka.net.
So much suffering and my dearest friends to die. Oh yes, I guess you wonder what they have done to me. Well, I am going to tell you my husband has TB. Brought on the hard-working low wages and not enough to eat, going naked and hungry, no shoes on his feet. I guess you say he's lazy and did not want to work, but I must say you're crazy. For work he did not shirk. My husband was a coal miner. He worked and risked his life to try to support 3 children, himself, his mother, and wife. I had a blue-eyed baby, the darling of my heart, but from my little darling, her mother had to part. The rich and mighty capitalists, they dress in jewels and silk, but my darling blue-eyed baby, she starved to death for me. I had a darling mother, for her I often cry, but with these rotten conditions, my mother had to die. Well, what killed your mother? I hear some capitalists say. Well, the dead of hard work and starvation, my mother had to pay. Oh, what killed your mother? Oh, tell us if you please. Excuse me, it was Pellegrini that starvation did see. They called it the land of plenty. To them, I guess it's true, but that's to the rich old capitalists, not workers like me and you. Oh, what can you do about it to these men of power and might? I'll tell you, Mr. Capitalist, I'm going to fight. This song holds the Surrey Ogan, and every word is true.
Ready? And the days of 1801, taking all. In the days of 1801, taking all. In the days of 1801, taking shoes is all I done. I made down my pig, my pig on all. In the days of 1802, taking all. In the days of 1802, taking all. In the days of 1802, taking shoes is all I do. Hand me down my pig, my pig and all. They've invented a new machine, pig and all. They've invented a new machine, pig and all. They've invented a new machine, the prettiest little thing you ever seen. I'll go away, my pig, my pig and all. In the days of 1803, pig and all. In the days of 1803, pig and all. In the days of 1803, the new machine that set me free. I'll go away, my pig, my pig and all. They've invented a new machine, pig and all. They've invented a new machine, pig and all. They've invented a new machine, the prettiest little thing you've ever seen. I'll go away, my pig and all. In the days of 1804, pig and all. In the days of 1804, pig and all. In the days of 1804, pig and shoes I do no more. I go away, my pig, my pig and all. How's that, Squire?
Peg and All, performed by the wonderful Southwest Virginia multi-instrumentalist Hobart Smith in the fall of 1959. A song that dates from the Industrial Revolution. It was first documented in 1917 by Cecil Sharp and Maud Carpelli as a fragment of the song regarding a shoemaker's complaint as the work of cobbling was becoming mechanized. That song was first recorded in 1925 by Virginia's Kelly Harrell, although made perhaps most famous by the Carolina Tar Heels version in 1928 that was issued in Harry Smith's Anthology of American Folk Music in 1952. And we started that set and this show of songs of protest and complaint with Sarah Ogan Gunning's I Hate the Capitalist System, a recording from 1937. In March of 1947, Lomax emceed a concert at New York City's Town Hall called Honky Tonk Blues at Midnight, part of a season of shows he was presenting under the name The Midnight Special, given that Town Hall was much cheaper to rent after midnight. Among the artists featured were three Southern-born, Chicago-based bluesmen, Memphis Slim, John Lee Williamson, the first of the three Sonny Boy Williamsons, and Big Bill Broonzy, who'd appeared at an earlier midnight special event called Blues at Midnight. After crashing for the night at Lomax's apartment, Allen invited them to the studios of Decca Records, for whom he'd been working compiling albums that reissued some of the great records in that label's archive from the 78 RPM era, to be discussed in a later episode. Lomax had the idea to sit Bill, Memphis, and Sonny Boy down for an off-the-cuff, taped discussion, in which, as he later put it, they would discuss where the blues come from. Allen was of the belief, widespread in that era among white and black folklorists, musicians, and other interested parties, that the blues was fundamentally a kind of heart song, a creative antidote to black oppression in the Jim Crow South, with its roots obviously in the slavery time work songs and spirituals, and not, as it's been more recently conceived, as a popular music style that, despite often including lyrics expressive of loss, loneliness, disorientation, and impotence, it was fundamentally great to dance to. Come the early days of the urban folk revival, however, a number of Southern singers who sang blues, like Big Bill Broonzy, Josh White, and Leadbelly, had written new topical material in blues forms that tackled issues of racism and inequity, both in the Jim Crow South and in their new homes in the North. Back to Decca Studios in 1947, Broonzy, Slim, and Williamson proceeded to discuss in startling frankness their experience as black men in the Deep South. The results were several hours of discussion interspersed with the soundtrack of songs enlarging on those themes, work songs, field hollers, topical blues, and some instrumental pieces. Edited down to a single LP, ultimately released under the somewhat banal name Blues in the Mississippi Night, it wouldn't be issued until 1959, by which time Big Bill and Sonny Boy had died, owing to the fact that all the men were scared of possible repercussions their families might experience back home. Here's the great Big Bill Broonzy with his immortal Black, Brown, and White Blues from that 1947 Decca session. It's worth saying that this is the earliest recordings of one of Bill's most famous compositions. You're listening to Been All Around This World.
This little song that I'm singing about, brother, you know it's true. Now if you black and got to work for a living, this is what they will say to you. They say, if you's white, she's all right. If you's brown, stick around. And as you black, go, brother. Get back, get back, get back. I was in a place one night, they was all having fun. They was all buying beer and wine, but they would not sell me none. They said, if you's white, you'd be all right. As you brown, stick around. As you black, go, brother. Get back, get back, get back. Me and a man were working side by side. This is what it meant. He was making $1 an hour and they was paying me 50 cents. He said, if you was white, you'd be all right. As you brown, stick around. He said, if you black, go, brother. Get back, get back, get back. I built this country, I fought for it too. Now I guess that you can see what a black man have to do. Now if you's white, you's all right. If you's brown, stick around. If you's black, go, brother. Get back, get back, get back.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to sing you a number entitled Yankee Dollar. That's telling you in song how the girls back in the West Indies went crazy about the Yankee Dollar. Not only Trinidad, be careful. Look, I had a pretty baby who confessed she loved me, and she's from respectable family. And she said that she had a soldier who is treating her much better. She don't want no native fella. So she told me plainly she love Yankee money. And she said, Lord Invader, not because you sang rum and Coca-Cola. Don't bother if you know you ain't got that Yankee dollar. And she told me plainly she love Yankee money. And she said, Lord Invader, not because you sang rum and Coca-Cola. Don't bother if you know you ain't got the Yankee dollar. I started started to chat the lady. I pleaded so impressively. I showed her a lot of English money. But this is what she made me to understand. She said she don't want no Trinidadian. You must be an American or either a Puerto Rican. So she told me plainly she love Yankee money. And she said, Lord Invader, not because you sang rum and Coca-Cola. Don't bother if you know you ain't got a Yankee dollar.
Yeah, she told me plainly she loves Yankee money. And she said, Lord Invader, not because you sang rum and Coca-Cola. Don't bother if you know you ain't got a Yankee dollar.
Yes, they have some girls in Port of Spain. Some of them ain't got no shame. Yes, I know a lot, but I won't call name. And if you see them around the corner, to approach them, don't you bother. Don't you know they're blocking some Yankee soldier? They will tell you plainly they love Yankee money. And she said, Lord Invader, not because you sang rum and Coca-Cola. Don't bother if you know you ain't got a Yankee dollar.
And she told me plainly she loves Yankee money. And she said, Lord Invader, not because you sang rum and Coca-Cola. Don't bother if you know you ain't got a Yankee dollar.
But now the war is over, Trinidad is getting harder. Some of the women bawling for murder. And you can hear them how they gossiping. No more Yankee dollars they spending and thing. But now they hustling for their usual shilling. They will tell you plainly they love Yankee money. And she said, Lord Invader, not because you sang rum and Coca-Cola. Don't bother if you know you ain't got a Yankee dollar. Thank you. One more. Thank you very kindly, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go. It ain't like that. We are here till next week.
2 evenings of Lomax's Midnight Special Concert Series at Town Hall were devoted to Calypso, drawing on some of the deep talent that was residing in Harlem. Among them, Trinidadian emigres like Duke of Iron, Macbeth the Great, and Lord Invader, whose December 1946 performance of Yankee Dollar we just heard. That recording was from a disc found years after the concert in a box in a closet in Alan's sister Bess's apartment, with that disc being the only extant document of any of the Midnight Special Concert Series. You can hear the entire show at culturalequity.org. And before Lord Invader was Big Bill Broonzy and his very first recording of his famous Black, Brown, and White Blues, recorded at Decca Studios in New York City in 1947. There's a book yet to be written concerning the relationship of Alan Lomax and his friend Woody Guthrie, and we won't attempt to outline it here, but let it suffice to say that when Lomax first saw Woody perform at a benefit for the Abraham Lincoln Brigades fighting on the Republican side in the Spanish Civil War in 1940, he saw in him the ideal of the rambling folk troubadour, combining progressive politics with a gift for disarmingly clever and straightforward songwriting and singing. And in spite of Woody's cannily invented and maintained persona, he was, of course, the best there was at that combination. We'll hear a recording from the first sessions that Woody did with the Lomaxes at the Library of Congress just after that concert in 1940. The voice you hear is that of Alan's first wife, Elizabeth Littleton Harold. He'll do some talking, and then you'll hear his performance of Dust Bowl refugees. There's more than one kind of refugee, he says. There's refugees that takes refuge under railroad bridges, and there's refugees who take refuge in public office. You're listening to Been All Around This World.
California waters taste like cherry wine. You sleep out every night, and so forth and so on. There was thousands and thousands and thousands more of them. In fact, there's about 300,000 or 400,000 of them. They woke up one bright, clear morning, and they found themselves walking down the road, wives, kids, fathers, mothers, and everybody else that you could think of. They traveled 1,500 or 2,000 miles in these old broke-down jalopies, and they went to California, and I was one of the first bunches to go to California. Because when people start going somewhere, I'm always kind of a dadgum feller that jumps up and takes off right while they're talking about it. Anyway, when I got to California, I seen things out there that I wouldn't believe if people had sat and tell me that there was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of families of people living around under railroad bridges, down along the river bottoms, in the old cardboard houses, and in old rusty beat-up houses that they'd made out of tow sacks and old dirty rags and corrugated iron that they got out of the dumps, and old tin cans flattened out, and old orange crates that they'd been able to tear up and get boards out of. I wouldn't believe it. Because all these people didn't go out there to loaf around. They didn't go out there to have a good time. They went out there for one reason, and absolutely one reason. And that was because they thought that they could get some work there. When they got out there, they found themselves sitting alongside the road or up in the hobo jungles, camping around 300 or 400 families on one hillside and 300 or 400 families on another hillside. They had a little old spring of water running around there somewhere, and they'd use this little spring of water, or little hole of water, to do their washing in, to shave in, to get a drink of water out of, to wash their teeth in. They used that spring of water as sewage disposal. They used it for everything in the world. And a lot of times I've seen 300 or 400 families of people that trying to get along on a stream of water that wasn't any bigger than the stream of water that comes from your faucet when you go into the kitchen and turn the faucet on. These mountain springs wasn't any stronger than that one faucet, and yet 300 or 400 families of people found themselves trying to keep sanitary on that amount of water.
Oh, Woody, with all these people pouring into California and living around there like that in that condition and so poor and everything, what did the Californians think about this? How did they react? What did they call these people?
They called us Dust Bowl refugees. All the newspaper headlines was full of stuff about Dust Bowl refugees. Refugees here, refugees yonder, refugees everywhere that you look. They called us Dust Bowl refugees, but then there's more than one kind of a refugee. There's refugees that take refuge under railroad bridges, and there's refugees that take refuge in public office. So I've got a little song here that I made up about Dust Bowl refugees.
Just a Dust Bowl refugee, from the Dust Bowl to the Peach Bowl. Just a Dust Bowl refugee. Lord, that peach fuzz, it's killing me. Across the mountains to the sea, come the white kids and me, down that hot, dusty highway, just a dust refugee. Once that dust bowl was our home. Now we ramble and we roam in the jungle by the railroad, just a dust bowl refugee. In your orchard and in your trees, days you're hot and nights you freeze, picking oranges, avocados, just the dust bowl refugees. Across the desert and the plains, through the dust and wind and rain, in the snow that caps your mountains, just a dust bowl refugees. Heart, it's always been that way, getting harder every day. Mighty hard old winding highway for a dust bowl refugee. We are ramblers, so they say, yesterday here and here today, like a whirlwind on a desert, just the dust bowl refugees. Yes, we ramble, yes, we roam, since the tractor took our home. Little whirlwinds make a cyclone, that's the dust bowl refugees.
For 42 years is a mighty long time for the labor and toil down in that coal mine. But down in that dark hole where the bright lights did glow, back in a dark room, I was painting up coal. My bones, they did ache me, my kneecaps got bad, down on that hard rock, on a sailor knee pad. The motors were shifting, I got sand in my heart. Both lungs were broke down from breathing bad air. Now I went to Columbus for to find a new job. They sent me to my boss man, and I heard him say, the company don't want you, compensation won't pay. For the doctors, they've told us, coal dust didn't get you, this way, but it did, and I proved it.
The unmistakable voice of coal miner, labor activist, and singer Nimrod Workman. Born in Martin County, Kentucky in 1895, Workman labored for 42 years in West Virginia mines before he retired with pneumoconiosis, or black lung. In the face of company bosses and company doctors insisting that the disease, all too common among underground miners, was not caused by coal dust, Workman led a contingent of miners to Washington, where they lobbied Senator Robert Byrd, who ultimately passed legislation to acknowledge the disease's reality and to provide pensions for the suffering miners and their families. His performance of his own composition, 42 Years, was recorded by Lomax at Nimrod's last home in Mascot, East Tennessee, above Knoxville, in 1983. And we heard Woody Guthrie from his first series of recordings, those made at the Library of Congress in the spring of 1940, with Alan Lomax and his wife, Elizabeth Littleton Harold. We'll wrap up this episode of Been All Around This World with 2 recordings made at the notorious Mississippi Penitentiary, better known as Parchman Farm. As we discussed in the first episode of this podcast, there were some half-dozen recording trips made to Parchman by both John and Alan Lomax, together and separately between 1933 and 1959. The first performance we'll hear is one from September of '59, when Alan returned to the prison for the last time, bringing with him for the first time a stereo tape machine. Floyd Batts will sing his version of the holler Dangerous Blues. This song, with its oblique threats to the guards, was obviously popular at Parchman, with multiple examples recorded in the men and women's camps alike. He sings, "Everybody talking about those dangerous blues. If I had my special, or shotgun in other versions, I'd be dangerous too." And we'll finish the show with a sublime performance by a group of female prisoners led by M.B. Barnes. John Lomax marked this song down in his notes when he recorded it in 1936 as No More Trouble, not realizing it as one of the great post-Civil War era African-American spirituals, "Oh Freedom," which was soon to be picked up to such crucial effect by the Civil Rights Movement. "Before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free." My name is Nathan Salzberg. I'm the curator of the Alan Lomax Archive at the Association for Cultural Equity. Certainly appreciate you listening to the show this week. If you are not a subscriber, maybe recommend doing so through iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, any place where fine podcasts are found. Hope to have you tuning in next time. Take care, everyone.
Whoa, everybody talk, yeah, Lord, about a danger blue. The people's talking, Lord, about a danger blue. If I had my special, Lord, I'd be danger too. A 32-20 and 20, Lord, I do very well. A 32-20 and 20, Lord, do very well. A 4-5 mighty, Lord's a burning hell. Just don't know, Lord, just don't know, Lord, I believe I will. Can make my home, Lord, man, way in Jacksonville. Mud.